Hi everyone and welcome back to another video. I hope you're all doing really well and welcome to the first video in my series sewing my dream summer wardrobe, I guess we could call it, or sewing my holiday wardrobe. I don't quite know what to call it, but the series where I'm going to be sewing up some of my summer sewing plans. So in last week's video I shared quite a few sewing plans with you, summer sewing plans that I'm just starting in July, so we are a little bit late but I do have quite a few things that I'd really love to get sewn in time for a couple of holidays that I have coming up next month in August. And it just took me a little while this year to get around to thinking about what I wanted to sew, I think. So if you have missed that video sharing all my summer sewing plans, then I will link it down below. But if you have seen it, you will know exactly what I'm planning to sew up for my holidays. So in today's video and this week, I would really like to get sewn up one of the what I hope will be easier makes of my list, and that is the gingham shorts that I really want to sew up for my holiday. So gingham shorts are really popular at the moment on the high street. They seem to be everywhere, and I'm really quite well, it's one of those makes actually where first when you see it you think, not quite sure, but then you see them everywhere and you think, actually I wouldn't mind having a pair of those for myself. So I found some really lovely gingham fabric on the Fabric Godmother website and got to thinking about how I could sew up my own pair. So let's talk about fabric first this time, shall we? So this fabric is a washed, a tumbled linen, so it's got some weight to it. It definitely feels very linen-y, but I think because it's a tumbled linen, I'm not exactly sure what tumbled linen means, but I think perhaps it means that it's been washed and dried. I'll pop in on the screen actually what it does mean because I'll look it up. But yeah, it's just got a little bit more of a sort of a softer texture to it than maybe like a really crisp 100% linen would have. And this I thought was probably perfect for a lovely cool summer pair of shorts, and I love the size of the gingham check and I love the colours in this as well. So that's the fabric that I'm going to be using. And then for the pattern that I'm going to be using a pattern that I love and have made many times, as you'll well know if you're a regular to this channel. I'm going to be using the Tyra trousers pattern by Ploen Patterns. So obviously this is primarily a trousers pattern, and you can make it either full length plazo pants style, wide leg plazo style pants, elasticated waistband, lovely slant pockets. So you can make them full length or you can make them as culotte length. So what I'm planning to do is just shorten them even more than the culotte length and just take them up to shorts length. And that should, in theory, be quite a simple change to make. I just want to make sure that I keep the width in the leg, and I don't want to take them up so that they're too narrow around the leg. So that's something that I'm going to have to look at when I come to retrace the pattern, just to see what we're dealing with there. But yeah, I love this pattern so much. It's a really lovely, quick and easy trouser pattern, great for beginners, really easy to fit because of the elasticated waist. And I really love the pockets in these ones. I'm not always a massive fan of inseam side pockets, but these ones are really nice and flattering because they kind of slant into the waistband, so I really like those. So yeah, I just want to make a nice simple pair of shorts from this pattern, and rather than just having the plain elasticated waistband, I want to just adapt that slightly to make it have a drawstring waistband instead. So I'm just going to draft a really simple waist tie, and then I'm just going to add buttonholes to the waistband and just elasticate and thread my drawstring through so that I've got both an elasticated waist and a drawstring. And I think the drawstring just adds a nice little sort of summery touch. So I will be making a couple of changes to the pattern which I will talk you through. They're really quite simple changes to make, but I do understand that if you are a beginner and you're not used to adapting patterns, sometimes it can feel a little bit daunting. So I will take you through the whole process, share exactly what I'm going to be doing, and hopefully that will be helpful. I'm really looking forward to having these shorts sewn up. We are in the middle of a heat wave here in the UK at the moment. Today I'm filming this quite early because it's going to be about 32 degrees later this this afternoon. I'm kind of loving it actually. I mean, I wouldn't want to be out in the full heat, but I do love the warm evenings. I love sitting in the garden. I've been doing my patchwork, I've been doing a bit of knitting late into the evening in the garden, and that is the time of a heat wave that I really enjoy, early mornings and late evenings. And I've really loved that we're having a proper summer, because last summer here in the UK, our summer was pretty rubbish and I didn't wear half of my summer wardrobe. So I think already I've probably worn more of my summer makes than I did last year, and it's just been really lovely to have some proper summer weather going into July, so I really hope it continues. It's really funny, isn't it? You can't be British without mentioning the weather. I just feel like I do it all the time, but there's something in you as a British person. I think you just naturally want to talk about the weather. I just can't help it. Yeah, we are having a heat wave, so perfect time really to be sewing my summer wardrobe, although it would have been handy if I had already made these things and I could be wearing them now, but never mind. Anyway, you're catching me at the very beginning of this process because I haven't even put this fabric into the wash yet. So what I'm going to do now is actually pre-wash this, get it out on the line, and I'm going to do something that I never normally do, but I probably should do more. And I'm actually going to overlock the edges of this fabric before I put it in the wash, because I don't know if you can see on the camera, and because it's a linen, it's quite prone to fraying, I think. So I think this is probably going to get pretty tangly if I just put it straight in the wash. So I'm going to be good, and I'm going to just overlock the raw edges, not the selvages, they'll be fine I think, but the actual where it's been cut, I'm going to overlock those, throw it in the wash, get it out on the line. With this heat it should dry pretty quickly, and then hopefully, not today but maybe in the next couple of days, I can get on with sewing. So I'll take you along with the process. Okay, so that's my fabric all in on the pre-wash now, and while I'm just waiting for that to finish so that I can get it hung outside, it just gives me a few minutes to talk about the sponsor of today's video, which is Serious Readers. If you haven't heard of Serious Readers before, they are a lovely, local to me lighting company who build bespoke lighting solutions which are perfect for crafters like you and me, who love to work and craft into the evenings but might struggle sometimes with bad lighting solutions or even poor eyesight. Each Serious Readers light is fitted with something called daylight wavelength technology, which helps you to feel as though you're working in daylight even though it might be dull or dark outside. Each light is also fitted with a dimmer function and a beam width function as well, and this just allows you to get just the right focus exactly where you need it. I love the dimmer function as well because these lights do come up really bright, and sometimes you don't need quite that amount of brightness, so I love to be able to turn down the light to exactly what I need and just be able to focus on what I'm working on. So even though we are in summer at the moment, I still find myself using my high definition light, particularly in the mornings when I get up early to read, and in the evenings because I've been working on a bit of hand sewing recently, and having that extra bit of lighting has really helped. Because obviously it has been lighter into the evenings, we haven't been putting the house lights on so much, so it's really helpful just to pop my light on, just to get a bit of extra focus on my hand sewing or my knitting pattern or whatever I might be working on in the evening. Serious Readers HD lights come in lots of different shapes and sizes and lots of colours and designs as well. So my light is a black floor standing light with a lightweight base which I can easily move from room to room, but you can also get desk and table lamps and lights with heavyweight bases as well if you don't need to move them around as much as I do. Serious Readers HD lights come really highly recommended by optometrists as well, so if you are someone that struggles with your eyesight and you need an extra bit of help for the crafting that you still would love to do, then you can have the peace of mind that they do come recommended by optometrists, and they are really helpful if you do struggle with your eyesight. So if you would like to try out a Serious Readers light for yourself, Serious Readers have given me a code for £150 off of any of their HD lights, and that code is Sally. And as I say, that code entitles you to £150 off of any of their HD lights. It also includes free UK delivery, and you also get a 30-day money-back guarantee as well. So if you do try try out a light and you're not 100% happy with it, you can return it with no questions asked. I'll leave the Serious Readers website and any of the other details that you need to know in the description below this video, and I hope that after you've finished watching my video today, you'll pop over and check out their wide range of lights. Thank you so much to Serious Readers for sponsoring this part of the video. Start by taking a pair of ready-to-wear shorts that I know I love the length of and measuring from crotch to hem. That length was 4 inches and I added an extra 1.5 inches to give me a nice weighty hem. I then took my back leg pattern piece and measured 5.5 inches from the crotch line and made a mark with my pencil. I then drew a line straight through the grain line with my quilting ruler to mark the shorter length. I then traced out my new pattern piece and cut it out. I then repeated that process for the front leg. For the drawstring part of the shorts, I'm actually borrowing a pattern piece from another pattern that I have, the Jamie Pyjama Bottoms by Tilling the Buttons. If you have a similar pattern that has a drawstring pattern piece, then you can borrow that. Otherwise, it's really simple to draft your own drawstring piece. You simply need a straight line of fabric measuring approximately 75 centimeters by 4 centimeters, and you'll need to cut 2 of those and then join them together. Once all my pattern pieces were cut out, I set to cutting out my fabric. Right, I'm all cut out and ready to go, and I have the machine set up, and I'm really excited to get sewing and see how these shorts come together. I've never used this pattern to make a pair of shorts, so it's going to be an experiment, and I think if it works, they will work really nicely as shorts. So first of all, what we need to do is actually reinforce the front leg piece and the pocket pieces, which are cut slanted. Because they're slightly cut on the bias, they can be prone to stretching out, especially when you're putting your hands and things in the pockets. So we just need to reinforce those pieces with a strip of interfacing. So I'm going to cut a piece of interfacing and just reinforce those pieces, and then we sew the pocket pieces to the front legs. So let's get sewing, shall we, and see how far we can get this morning. The pattern actually tells you to press the pocket seams open and then press them to the inside of the trouser leg or the shorts leg. So there isn't any understitching instructed in the pattern instructions. So what I've done is press the seams open, press them to the inside, and then I've just top stitched the pocket down, and that should just keep it nicely in place so that the lining doesn't want to roll out. So my front leg pieces are done, and I've just tacked the pockets in place across the waistband and then down the side of the leg as well. That's what it looks like on the back. So we've got the pockets, is that the pocket lining? Pocket facing, I think that's called. So that's what you'll see on the front of the trousers, and then your hand goes in there like that. So both front leg pieces are done. The pattern then gets you to construct the leg pieces slightly differently from the way that I like to do it. I prefer to sew one back leg to one front leg at the side seams and at the crotch seam, and then put the one inside the other and then just sew along the crotch seam that way and then turn them through. I think because I've made this pattern so many times, I've kind of got familiar with it enough to know the way that I prefer to sort of construct them. So I have sewn the crotch seam and the side seam of both legs, and I've turned one right side out and I've left one wrong side out. So what we need to do now is just pop one leg inside the other leg, match them right sides together at the crotch seam. Starting at the inner leg crotch seam, we just need to pin those two seams together and then just continue pinning right around the crotch seam from the waistband right round to the inside leg. And then we need to sew right around that curved crotch seam, finish the seam, and then just press it to one side. It doesn't matter which side. So now we have a pair of shorts, or something that's looking like a pair of shorts, albeit a rather large one. Now we're on to the waistband. So this is where we deviate again from the pattern, because if you're following along with what I'm doing, we're going to be putting in a drawstring waistband rather than the simple elasticated waistband that the Tyra trousers normally has. So because we're going to need to feed the drawstring through, we need to make some buttonholes in the waistband. So you can do this either by putting buttonholes in, or you could use like a prim tool thing that puts in metal holes. I cannot for the life of me at the moment remember what that tool is called. So first of all, what I'm going to do is actually make my drawstring piece, because I want to see how wide this is going to be so that I know how wide to make my buttonholes or how long to make my buttonholes. So because I've stolen the drawstring piece from the Tilly and the Buttons Jamie pattern, I just need to join my two drawstring pieces, and then I'm going to press this in half and then press it in again. If you were using a lighter fabric, you could possibly just sew it down the whole length of the fabric and turn it through. I kind of prefer to do this pressing method because I do not really enjoy turning thin tubes through, but obviously it's personal preference and you can do what works best for you and your fabric. Drawstring tie is done. That is such a facial steam doing that, isn't it? Because you need to apply the steam to get the fold nice and crisp, but you do feel as though you're kind of trying not to burn yourself and also giving yourself a facial steam at the same time. So I feel very hot and bothered now. So I've done that, and I've also just joined my waistband into a circle and I've pressed it in half. So what I'm going to do now is just find the center point of the waistband. So I'm just folding it in half. This is my center seam and this is my center front fold. So it's exactly halfway between the center back seam. I'm just going to pop a pin in there to mark the center front seam, or the center front fold, I should say. And then what I want to do is just mark my buttonholes either side of that fold. So the width of the waistband is 6 centimeters. My elastic that I'm going to be threading through is 4 centimeters, so it's quite wide elastic. The seam allowance when we join the waistband to the shorts is going to be 1 centimeter, as it has been the whole way through. So we need to take off 1 centimeter from the raw edge of the waistband, essentially, because that's going to be where the seam is, and we're then left with 5 centimeters to play with. I've measured the width of my drawstring piece as well, and at its widest point, because these always go a little bit wibbly wobbly, don't they, it's just over 1 centimetre. I'm going to give myself a 1.5 centimetre buttonhole, just to make sure that the whole of my drawstring will fit through the buttonhole and I'm not going too narrow at any point. So I'm taking my tape measure and I'm just going to mark with my chalk pencil 3 lines, and those are going to be the points where I'm going to sew the channels for the drawstring. So I'm giving myself a little bit of grace there, and just making the drawstring channels a little bit wider than they need to be, and I'm taking off my centimetre seam allowance. So I've measured from the top fold and just marked a 1.5 centimetre mark, and then I've gone from that mark and marked another 1.5 centimetre, and then I've marked 1.5 centimetres again, and then that will take me to the seam allowance. So essentially that middle 1.5 centimetre channel is where I want my buttonholes to sit, because that's where I'm going to be threading my drawstring through the middle channel. So to mark the exact point of the buttonholes, what I'm going to do is just go around 1.5 centimetres each side of my middle centrefold pin. So I've just marked with a pin on the bottom there where I want my buttonholes to start, and luckily for me, because I have the checks of the gingham, it kind of lined up with the lines of the gingham, so I've just popped a pin there so that I know where to stop and start with my buttonholes. So I'm just going to put a little strip of interface in behind where I'm going to be sewing the buttonholes, just to reinforce that area, just to make sure that nothing stretches out and nothing frays too much, and then I'm just going to sew my buttonholes in place on the waistband. Don't forget, of course, to open out your waistband when you are sewing the buttonholes, because you don't need a buttonhole on the back of the waistband, you just need it on the front piece. Waistband is in now, and I've just tried these on and it's looking okay, feeling okay. What I need to do now is just run my drawstring channels around on the sewing machine. So I'm going to sew one row of stitching 1.5 centimetres from the top of the waistband here, and then another one 1.5 centimetres from the bottom. So that should be just above the buttonholes and just below, and that will also keep the elastic in place as well. And then once that's sewn, we can just feed the drawstring through. Try on told me that I was really happy with how these were looking, but I needed to take quite a lot off of the length. They were looking far too long. So I actually chopped off 1.5 inches of the leg length, and then I turned up another inch for a hem. Shorts are done, and I'm thrilled with how these turned out. I really like the design of the Tyra trousers as a pair of shorts. Obviously you could try this little change out with any trouser pattern that you have. It's really quick and easy to do, and these will be so comfortable to wear for summertime and great for a holiday. I absolutely love them, and I'm looking forward to styling them up with my Mimis this summertime. Thank you so much for joining me on another sewing day, and of course, if you have enjoyed this video, please do give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more weekly sewing content. Thanks again for watching. Take care everyone, and I'll look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye.